Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. Got a busy show lined up. Have a good crew tonight. Off to my right, it's Stephen Rochelle. Welcome back, Stephen. And
Always a pleasure, my friend.
And we have Candy Ebling on.
Thanks for having me, Scott.
And Mel Farr, my superstar running back, who is going to be having a tribute that he can pay to somebody that I know he's very dear with. Mel, glad to have you on.
Hey, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And Tommy Shanahan, we're going to be doing something tomorrow night on the Motor City Madmouth Show. So I hope you can join us as well. There we go. Hello, Daniel, Barry Sports Highlights. Glad to have you on tonight. Let's get right to it. The Miami Hurricanes waxed Bethune-Cookman by a score of 45-3. Carson Beck goes 22 for 24 for 267 yards, 2 touchdowns. The Canes in that game used 3 kickers, which was unbelievable, who scored points, 2 quarterbacks. And then obviously when you look at the total yards, Miami outgained Bethune-Cookman 543 to 191. BC's time of possession was 31:55 to 28:05. That's the only department they let in. And the best part of it all is Mario Cristobal's press conference was all 6 minutes and 55 seconds. Shows you what he thought of this game. No reason to go ahead and have any clips because there aren't any worth your while. So, Stephen, we got to get these games out of the way. I have a streak going where I don't miss games. That's why I went. But that was about the most interest I had in it. And considering that how many spots there were empty in the press box, it's a different animal. What are your thoughts about Miami, Bethune-Cookman? They're going to have a bigger test in a little while. We'll get to.
They're looking good early on. Obviously, we're only 2 weeks in, but Miami looks the part. They're putting the points up right now. So we'll see if they can get back in championship contention status. It looks good early on, that's for sure.
Candy, you were there?
I was there. I was there for both games. So, they schedule these games for a reason. And that's so that the smaller school, the lesser school can get a payday. And, Miami can work out their kinks. Let's face it. They put in Emory and to see what their backups can do. And I like that because I like Emory as a quarterback. And yes, he's not Carson Beck and he's not making the money. But I like it when we can see some of the backups. Do I like seeing a football game that's got that kind of a score? No. But I understand it.
Well, who doesn't like Henry Williams? Every question he says is a great question. I would have had more fun with him at the post game than Carson Beck. I mean, at least he got to play the game, but no, Carson Beck's definitely worth getting on there. Mel?
I'll be honest with you, Scott. I don't pay a whole lot of attention to these games. My brother and I, we talk about it all the time. Those are kind of get-right games that you got to get everything that you're going to get in the first 2 quarters because, in the second half, you're not going to play. As, somebody who's a starter or who's a major contributor to the team. Now, for the school, for like Bethune-Cookman, for the HBCUs that are getting this opportunity, like Jackson State or Grambling, rather, went out to Ohio State and played. It's good for them because they do get a payday. That does help their athletic department. It boosts the revenue in their athletic department. But as far as watching the game, I have no interest in watching a football game like that, to be honest with you. As a fan, I have no interest. But as a player, I can understand it. It's a pad your stat game. You better get it early and often because you're not going to be in there. Everybody's going to get an opportunity to play. So it does give you an opportunity to get some of your young guys out there, some playing time in the big arena in front of the crowd, however large it may be. But as far as for me as a fan watching it, I have no interest in watching those football games. I think Ohio State game was 77-0. My brother asked me, or 70-0. My brother said, so because we got a friend, a teammate who coaches at Grambling, and my brother said, so how'd they do? I said 70-0. He said 70-0. I said, yeah, 70-0.
I don't blame you. I only did go there because I had to cover it, not because I was going to go there and buy a ticket. I agree with you. Why would I go otherwise to watch what I knew what was going to happen? Everybody knew. Why do you think the coach's press conference didn't even make it to 7 minutes? Because he had about as much interest as I got to do what I got to do. And I'll open the question here. The thing, what I knew I was going to do was play the reserves. I mean, boy, that's already a ticket right there to know that nobody cared, but it was on the schedule. Tommy?
Yeah, I think these games have outlived their purpose with the NIL age. It used to be once in a while you would see an upset in this type of game. I'm thinking of App State winning at Michigan, and they had that dynamic quarterback. I can't think of his name. He ended up playing in the NFL. And a guy like him in today's age, for whatever reason, he didn't get recruited by a big-time school. In today's age, he would have left App State and gone on to a big-time school for NIL money and opportunity. Back in those days, before NIL, when the scholarship limits were 85 for the bowl seat teams and 63 for the championship division schools, a guy who was stuck on a roster and a backup deep on the depth chart who had talent could transfer down a level and be immediately eligible. He couldn't transfer to another major school and be immediately eligible because he had to sit out. And a lot of times that worked out for guys because they got playing time and they ended up moving on to the NFL or whatever, or having a good career. So none of that applies anymore because instead of, I've only had 20-some gap in scholarships. Now the scholarship gap is even bigger. And instead of guys flowing down a level, they're going to flow up a level. And that just means you're going to have less talent on those teams. And the guys that are having to play the games are just going to get beat up. And then how's that going to suit the team for the rest of the season?
Yeah, great point. Well, all right, let's talk about another upset that occurred. Get this, my alma mater, University of South Florida, got paid $500,000 to beat the University of Florida. Keep in mind the game-winning field goal was decided by Brendan Betts spitting on Cole Skinner. I mean, that was bad. But when you think about the game in its totality, and you look at DJ Lagway for Florida, goes 23 for 33 for 222 yards, a touchdown, and an interception in the game. And again, I just set up what the scenario was. Well, let's look at the game in its entire totality. Okay, USF's resume so far looks pretty impressive. They ended up beating Boise State 34-7. Now the Florida 18-16 game, and now they're going to face Miami on Saturday at Hard Rock Stadium. Candy and I will definitely be there. So when you look at the game in itself, Stephen, what are your thoughts about what the stage being set for this game? And keep in mind, it doesn't get any easier for Florida either, because Florida is going to have to take on number 3 LSU, number 5 Miami in 2 weeks, and they got number 7 Texas, and then they also get number 19 Texas A&M. So Billy Napier, which we're going to talk about at a later date, but let's talk about things in the current, Stephen. This is not a good look for Florida, but it's also a good one for USF, because that game, as I understand, will be on the CW network as well. So there'll be a decent amount of national television coverage. We'll start with you, Stephen.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be UCF and Miami is going to be going at it. Obviously,
USF.
Yeah.
Well,
University of
Central and South Florida, we have rivalry. You don't understand in this state. We hate each other.
Well, there's a real rivalry, and unlike the fake one you were coming up with last night.
Don't even go there. Yeah, I know.
All right, let me get into this. All right, so I'm just gonna say this one. Miami needs this more than UCF. So
USF.
It's USF.
I'm busting your chop.
Oh, now you're busting my chops. Oh, that's his way of doing it. All right, now I know.
But no, this is the more pressures on the Hurricanes right now. Regardless of everything else. You got Carson back there. You got all these alma mater there. I don't know if you've seen our buddy Christy Jones was posting up him, Michael Irvin, and everyone's been down there the last few games. So the alumni's turning out for the Hurricanes early this season. Let's hope for their sake they're able to put together a handful more wins to see what they can do. But right now UCF is playing with house money.
Yeah, I know. Okay, that's okay. He's gonna stick it to me. But I will agree with you on one point. Even though you're busting my chops there is a lot more pressure on the Miami Hurricanes than there is
Yeah,
on
without a doubt.
USF because they're on right now. USF is on house money. They really
Yes,
are
sir.
in this
Yes, sir.
situation. Whereas in the case of Miami, the expectations are there. The number five, you have a quarterback getting paid an awful lot of money. Candy,
Well, you just took the words right out of my mouth. I mean, Carson Beck is getting paid how much NIL money to come to Florida? They wanted to follow the number one draft pick. That Cam Ward left Miami last year, went on to Tennessee. So now they brought in comes Carson Beck, um, and he's a 6th year starter because of the whole COVID. That's why he's 6th year and can still be playing. Uh, He's making a lot of money. So is there pressure on Miami? Yes, there's pressure on Miami. College football is better when Miami is good, but I would also say that Mario Cristobal needs to prove himself. And
yeah, I agree.
I think they need to do better than they did last year. Last year they started out strong and they really fizzled near the end. So I really think that he needs to put some statement wins together against some ranked opponents. And because this is, and I don't know that this is a regular rivalry, but this is a rivalry of sorts because it's in state. And anytime you're playing an in state college, it's, a rivalry of sorts. So Miami has a couple more games right now on their slate back to back. They have USF and then they have the Gators, and they have to win both those games. And if they don't, they're gonna fall in the rankings. And I don't know if Mario will survive if they don't do really well this year.
You know what, Candy? For some reason or another, my instincts are right on board with what you're saying. Mel,
You're muted, Mel.
you're muted.
Yeah, obviously, this game is real big for Miami. Like I've said it, Mario Cristobal, he's definitely on the hot seat. I know they started out, they're 0-2 right now, but this is a game they're supposed to win. You're supposed to beat USF. I mean, period. They're supposed to, really dominate the state of Florida. That's what, that's what the old Miami used to do. That's what they brought him in there to do,
Right.
and that's what he has to do. It's going to be a big game for him. Obviously, like you guys said, USF is coming in there on house money. They're coming in there on a high right now. They beat two very good teams. They're ranked now, so now people know who they are. But the thing is, when you got 18 to 22-year-old kids, you never know where their mind is. That's the thing about it. Mario Cristobal may be focused and maybe saying all the right stuff, but the kids might be taking this game for granted. And it's important that these kids don't take this game for granted, because if they do, they can go home with an L. So it's going to be interesting to see. This is the type of game that I will watch, because there is some intrigue there. Obviously, they're two good football teams. Now, if it gets out of hand early, then obviously I'll turn to something else that's probably a little bit more competitive. But this should be a good football game. Because USF is trying to come up. They're trying to they're trying to raise their stature in the national stage. And this is a big opportunity for them to do that. They took one step last week, and this would be taking another step by going in there and knocking off a team that a lot of people think that Miami has the goods to do some damage in the college playoffs. Now, obviously, a loss here wouldn't hurt Miami in the college playoffs, but a loss would be devastating for the program.
Tommy,
Yeah, I think this game will say a lot about Florida as well as Miami. If Miami decisively beats South Florida, then that doesn't speak well to Florida. But if South Florida plays Miami well, it's going to speak probably poorly on Miami. I think I've been following South Florida more than I normally would, because they have a quarterback from where I live, the Raleigh area, Byron
right.
Brown. He's from Roseville High School, which turns out a lot of Division I talent. So USF has a 2-0 record. They're looking good. But probably the most important thing for them to take a step up to this next level to play Miami is they have a dynamic quarterback. Brown had 66 yards passing and another 63-yard rushing against Florida. So if they can protect him, maybe they can give Miami a game. And if they give Miami a game, as after also beating Florida, it's going to say a lot about South Florida. If South Florida can't play with Miami, looks like Florida might be in for a long season.
All right, let me give you some notes on this game because there's some really interesting ones. Number one, USF has returned to the national rankings for the first time since 2018, checking in at number 18 in the AP poll and number 23 in the coaches poll. That's interesting. USF is just the fourth team in the AP poll era since 1936 to win its first two games of the season against ranked opponents after being unranked itself. That's interesting. The Bulls have beaten ranked opponents in back-to-back games on the schedule for the first time in program history. It's just the third time in program history USF has beaten two ranked foes in a season. The USF defense has produced a turnover in 10 straight games. The Bulls held Florida to its fewest points since 2023, and Boise State to its fewest since 2019. And finally, the USF offense has not turned the ball over on the season. Quarterback Byron Brown is riding a program record streak of 240 pass attempts without an interception, passing the program record set by Markel Blackwell. And another one that's interesting is Deshaun Rucker ranks 26th nationally and number 2 in American, posting 5.5 solo tackles a game. That's what you have to look forward to in this game. The stage is set. Go ahead, Candy.
One last comment. Depending on how well USF plays, I'm not even saying if they beat, but how well they play. The coach that we haven't been talking about is USF's coach, and I think he has proven that he will move up the ranks if he does well, because he has taken that program and to new heights, as you're saying.
Yeah, well, we'll get into that more. There's no question that what's his name? Alex Golis, I think his name.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's definitely a hot coaching commodity for sure. I'm looking forward to having an opportunity with post game to maybe catch up with Coach. He's a really super nice guy, and I'm definitely looking forward to talking to him as well. Other things we got to get. So there you go. That sets the stage for Saturday, and Candy and I will be there. Former Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver Antonio Brown is reportedly almost broke after earning almost $100 million in his playing career. All right, Steven, surprised with that? Probably not, right?
I mean, we talk about this stuff all the time, man, about how players spend money on unnecessary nonsense, and then wonder why. We were just listening to Cam Newton talking about how upset he was that he wasn't able to kind of give his kids, the stuff that he used to give to when he was playing in his career.
Right.
He made over $134 million in his career. So I don't know. Maybe not buy these flashy jewelry that you don't need to show off to anyone. Maybe not throw away money on cars that you really don't freaking need. A lot of these guys show up, and I think people should take note. Look at Chad Ochocinco, right? All that stuff that he used to do when he was a pro, it was all fake. The jewelry was fake. Everything was fake. How do you think he's flying around to going to FIFA events, going to Super Bowls, going to do this, that, and the third? Because he still has his playing money. Because everything he did when he was a player to kind of show out, show off, was all fake. It was, it was probably just a couple $100. When he'd have these cars, they'd be rented cars. It wouldn't be cars that he would go and buy. He was giving everyone the persona without hurting his own pocket. Some of these players should continue to sit there and spend beyond their means. We're gonna go pay our whole family to be out of poverty and things like that, instead of setting them up with businesses so you don't have to pay for them. Right. It's something we talk about a lot of times with athletes just not knowing how to spend their money. Am I surprised that Antonio Brown broke? No. Look how his career went. I mean, was he one of the all pro wide receivers for the better part of 5 to 10 years? Yeah, he was. But he also lived his life in a way that he would overspend on whatever he was doing. you can't be surprised by stuff like this, and this is what stuff that me, Ben, and a lot of the other guys talk about how athletes need to educate themselves on setting themselves up for when their career's over, so they're not broke, so they're not having to sit there and do these stupid, ridiculous things, go to events maybe they have no interest in being, and it just hurting their overall image even more in the long run. But that's all I got on that one. I'm not surprised, and just some athletes need to be better at what they're doing with the fortunes that they are being given.
Candy.
We live in a society where we feel that other people's opinions matter, and we need to make sure sometimes they want to be flashy and come across as they have money, so they spend money to look like they have money. We all know they have money. The one, Scott, I'm going to go back to our Super Bowl days when we were doing before the Super Bowl, and you did an interview that is on our YouTube channel with a former player. I think his name is Antonio Wise.
Correct.
And he talks about how he does financial planning for players now. And that's what the players really need. They really need a financial planner or someone to help them manage their money, tell them, okay, this is how much you need. This is how much you can live off now because you want this money to last X amount of, for X amount of years or whatever, so that they know that they can't go splash. And I get it. Oh, I want to buy my mom a house and I want to buy these things and stuff like that. Well, that's an investment. But when some of these things that depreciate or that you spend lavishly, you're not going to get that money back. So unless you're smart and protect some of it, at least,
Right.
you're going to go broke.
Mel.
Boy, the more money you make, the more money you spend. Now, there's financial literacy courses and classes that are available to all players. It's up to the player to reach out or to take that stuff seriously, or to look into it. Antonio, he has agents, and those agencies usually have some sort of financial literacy program attached to them, or financial investment program where they can take a certain amount of their earnings and put it away and allow that money to grow. But it's up to the player to do that. Now, not all players make generational money. Life-changing generational money. For the vast majority of them, they don't make that kind of money. Now, they make more money than we made back then. But again, you got to consider, depending on where you play, what state you play in. California, taxes are going to be extremely high there. State income taxes are going to be very, very high. And then Uncle Sam, he wants a piece too. So once it's all said and done, you're not left with 130 million. You might have 60 million. That's your money, 65 million. And then you have to, and you don't get it all at one time. And then you got, you bought a big old house and you got 3 or 4 cars or 5 cars. You can only drive one. There's no need to have all those cars, but you can only drive one. So you only drive one at a time. So, a lot of times, when people who've never had money, they don't really understand. And when it comes so easy in playing football, you think it's always going to come that easy. And it's not. Going out here trying to create a dollar is very, very difficult. When you're in the entertainment industry, which football is, you're getting paid an exorbitant amount of money to entertain people. When you're no longer able to do that, you got to go out there and get yourself a real job, just like everybody else. And sometimes players find that difficult. And if you continue to spend the same way you were spending while you were playing, that money is gonna go a lot faster, because you don't have the money coming in. You just have money coming out. You don't have money coming in.
Right.
So it doesn't happen. It happens to a lot of players. Antonio Brown is an obvious one, because you can just see how he carried himself, so it doesn't surprise anybody that he may find himself in this position. Now, broke for him and broke for me are two different things. Broke, him being broke might be he has 10 million. That's true. It's different. It's all relative. He might not be able to pay his mortgage. It might be 10 grand or whatever the case may be. So I mean, it's all relative.
Tommy?
Yeah, he's the poster boy for excess, and also for pro teams coddling an athlete while they're producing. Remember when he was broadcasting live on Facebook while Mike Tomlin was talking to the team? They should have got rid of him then. 7th round draft pick, whatever. Just get rid of him. He was obviously out of control. The only role left for him is Maurice Claret's role.
Right.
He did a lot. He spent a lot of time talking to teams and players, college and pro, I think, about all the mistakes he made and how to avoid the mistakes he made. But I don't know if Antonio Brown's that smart, if he'll ever come to that realization or ability. And what Mel was saying about agents having a good agent to put your money away, the great example of that is Allen Iverson. I think he's got a huge sum of money he can't touch until he's 50.
You got a big annuity they put away.
Yeah.
Reebok put away.
Yeah. And then the only other comment I'd make what Steve said, don't forget Cam Newton's hats. Why does he have to spend so much money on those stupid hats?
That's funny. Well, we might as well stay with this thing. Number one, I think Antonio Brown's a basket case. The way he burned his bridges with Tom Brady as bad as he had. Tom Brady was one of the best friends he ever had. He found a way to burn that bridge. So let's continue the theme with this, and let's turn it over to Josh Gordon, who, by the way, sold his Super Bowl ring and he got New England due to financial issues for $138K. Steven, another guy who's a little bit messed up, Josh Gordon.
Again, I don't know if it's spending of excess or, as Mel was talking about, financial literacy, reaching out to the right people, but you should make sure you're not going beyond your means and then having to, sell this off, sell that off just so you can do, whatever it is in your normal life. If you win a Super Bowl, you should be able to put that thing away, man. Have that as a heirloom for the family, something to pass on down to your kids. You don't want to sit there and sell it off to some yahoo who's gonna sit on it for 10, 15 years, and someone in their family is gonna find it in grandpa's treasure chest and then sell it off at some auction for a couple $1 million more. It's not fun to see athletes struggle in this way, So it's one of the things that I feel for Josh, but it's at the same time, I think it's about letting these athletes know they have avenues they can go to have people set themselves up so they're not in a bad spot. As Tom was just talking about, Allen Iverson was all over the place during his career, but he was smart enough to situate things in his sponsorship deals and whatnot through Reebok and everything else, where he has himself situated where like he got a big contract, but he puts a lump sum of it away and he still gives himself a yearly allowance through that deal. So it's one of those things where you see where guys are smart and they do take care of themselves and they do think for the future. And, you have the other side of that coin, the guys that live in, fast and dangerously fly through whatever temporary fortunes they do have. So, it's sad to see Josh having to get rid of it. But again, there are things in place where these guys can give themselves knowledge and protect themselves so they don't have to sell off Super Bowl rings, jerseys, things of that nature.
Candy?
Career earnings for Josh Gordon were $8.385 million. And yes, did he sell his Super Bowl ring at an auction for $138,000? My question is why do these athletes not go out and ask for help for their finances?
Right.
Mel talked about it. There's programs out there. I've said there's former players that are even doing financial planning to help these players. but you got to ask for it. And those that think that they, can just and set the money in a bank and, go spend things, it's not going to work because you're not making enough money. Interest rates are horrible, especially right now. I'll be the first to tell you that. You got to plan for the future. It's sad. It's sad. But then again, does he need us? I mean, and everybody's different. Did he want to pass the Super Bowl ring on to, family in the future, or did he not want to have a possessions? Like, I don't know, but yeah, it's too bad.
Okay, Mel.
And some of this, I'm trying to figure out who did Josh Gordon win the Super Bowl with. I didn't know he won.
I think he was there. He didn't win it.
2018 Super Bowl ring from his time with the Patriots.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Josh Gordon. I mean, you said he made $8 million. That's not a whole lot of money for professional football, because and you got to consider. I mean, he was suspended half the time that he was in the league.
No kidding.
Tremendously talented guy.
Yeah.
I don't know how much he had to pay in fines and things like that, and rehab and all the other things that he had to deal with. But yeah, he was suspended for a vast period of time, so his money was never steady. It was always stopping and starting, stopping and starting, stopping and starting. So again, it's just one of those unfortunate situations, And then by the time the ether wears off and you realize it, you're too old now, and you can't run the same way that you used to. You're not as fast as you used to. Don't have that short area quickness like you used to have. You can't jump as high as you used to jump, and teams don't want you anymore. It's just not worth it. The risk is not worth it anymore. So you find yourself on the outside looking in, and that's how it is. For the vast majority of the guys, you just don't hear about it. I mean, regular citizens have difficult times managing their money right now. So it's not, why should it be any different for NFL players? Even though they have the opportunities, they have things that are set up for them to be successful, where they can, put some of that money away. It's still, when somebody's never had any money and they get some money, I mean, it's burning a hole in your pocket. They just, all their eyes get real big, and everything that they've ever wanted in life, they're now able to get it, and they do it. And they think this money's going to come forever. And unfortunately, you can't play the game forever. And realizing, when you see those big checks that these guys are cashing, somebody's signing that check, and that's where you really want to be. You want to be on the end of signing those checks, as opposed to the one cashing the checks.
Tommy?
Yeah, I don't know what I can add to all that. I really don't know his story very much. The sad thing is Antonio Bryant, Josh Gordon, they didn't stand for anything. If athlete comes on a hard times, like say Kurt Flood, I don't think he had much money at the end of his life, but he stood for something, challenging the baseball free agency. He never really got the payoff he deserved, particularly from other baseball players who cashed in on the bold stance he took. But at least he stood for something if he lost all his money. And then the other thing I'd want to say is, we might be seeing this in the near future as the result of all this NIL money. How are these college kids spending or not investing their money? You always hear about how much they're making. And here in North Carolina, one of their basketball players, Seth Trimble, he's taken some of his money and invested in an ice cream shop, one of the franchise ice cream shops. And it's on Franklin Street, which is right there, the main hub in North Carolina, where he's going to get a lot of support from North Carolina fans. I don't know how much that investment will pay off in the long run, but it's certainly a lot better than blowing his money on cars. What does Carson Beck have? 2 Lamborghinis or something? You're talking about guys needing more cars than they have. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this NIL money shakes out.
Yeah, as far as Josh Gordon, no steady money for sure with all the suspensions. And regardless, it's a sad shame that he had to sell his Super Bowl ring for 138K. All right, our main topic of the night is going to go back to NFL record 16 black quarterbacks starting week one. I'll list them all for you. This is just unbelievable to think 16 of them for sure. But Bryce Young, Caleb Williams, Spencer Rattler, C.J. Stroud, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Michael Penix Jr., Lamar Jackson, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray, Jordan Love, Cam Ward, Jaden Daniels, Dak Prescott, Justin Fields, Geno Smith. People, there's no Rooney rule, okay? Now, chat must be broken tonight, Josh O'Dore. We need a little bit more than just a few nicknames, period, and that's that, okay? So now, no Rooney rule needed. Once upon a time, there used to be Joe Gilliam or Joe Gillum, Doug Williams, Warren Moon, Cordell Stewart, Michael Vick, Rodney Pete, Charlie Batch. Steven, this is pretty good stuff when you have that many African Americans under center. And I should mention Randall Cunningham as well. He was another good one too. Randall Cunningham was.
Yeah, I mean, I love it, dude. I'm not gonna make any more into it. I seen that trash ass comment in the chat room there. I'm not gonna give that any life. I love seeing this. The fact that we have 16 starting quarterbacks that are African American descent in the NFL, where we were 20 years ago. It's a good thing to see that we're basically, we're almost at the halfway, half or white guys, half are black guys. We got a couple other descendants in there as well. I like to see the diversity there, and I think they all bring a little something to the table. They all have a different little style to them. Yeah, obviously, a lot of these guys are dual threat guys. There's some of them that are traditional pocket guys. They're bringing something to the game, and I think they're paying homage to the guys that came before them, the Randall Cunninghams, the Doug Wilsons of the world. I said Doug Williams of the world.
Well, you had a good one in Philadelphia. Who's the other guy that took him to a Super Bowl, right?
I mean, listen, you got to give Donnie Mack some love. Obviously we revitalized Michael Vick's career. A lot of people felt that we just kind of really gave him another opportunity with a great team around him. He still wasn't as polished as he should be, and I kind of agree with some of that sentiments. But he still was given another opportunity here. He still had great games here. Did Michael Vick have his deficiencies? Yeah. He was basically going off of athletic talent alone and not a traditional, studying film, breaking down defense, things of that nature. He was a running gunner. That's just the way I see it. And obviously, Russell Wilson's kind of giving some more quiet calm to it, but I mean, look at your, the last few. Look at Patrick Mahomes. Look what Jalen Hurts has done in his 5 years in the league. I think they're redefining what we consider what an NFL quarterback is. So, regardless, black, white, yellow, green, orange, it doesn't matter to me as long as the guy can give their team the best opportunity to win. They should have an opportunity to play. So I'm glad we're at this point where we have that many African American starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Go ahead, Candy.
What I'm going to say is I love to see it. I love to see the competition, but to me, it doesn't matter what color you are. Put the best person there on the field. And is it great that it's 16? I don't know what the right number is. I just love the fact that we're seeing good football, and there's been some amazing predecessors, and so do I like to see it? Yes, of course I like to see, but I like to see good football. So give me the best talented people on the field. That's what I want to see.
Mel?
Yeah, I was surprised when I don't know where I saw that number, but I was surprised. I mean, I don't keep track of it, but I said, wow, 16 out of 32, that's half. I came up at an age where you didn't see any at all, really. And the first one you forgot to mention was James Shaq Harris that came out of Grambling. He was groomed to be the first quarterback in the NFL. but yeah, I remember Vince Evans. There weren't that many, and for the longest period of time, it was thought that we weren't smart enough to play those positions in the middle
Right.
of the field. Center, middle linebacker, safety, and quarterback. I remember Dwight Stevenson. I remember him playing center. That was a big deal with the Miami Dolphins. That was a big deal
Right.
when he was the starting center down there. But it just shows, and we've always talked about it, that when given the opportunity, when the rules are published, playing field is even, is level, that we can excel at anything. And given the opportunity, thinking about Andre Ware, he's the first black to win the Heisman Trophy. Now look how many
Right.
black quarterbacks to win the Heisman Trophy. Now look how many black quarterbacks have won the Heisman Trophy since then. So it's just we needed to have the opportunity. And yeah, the game looks a little bit different sometimes because some of the guys are a little bit more athletic. They bring something a little bit different to the position, but they aren't the only ones. I mean, what's his name? Steve Young. I mean, he was very athletic to play the position.
Right.
He made it look a little bit different. He wasn't your prototypical drop back pocket quarterback. So it just happens that a lot of these guys, their skin color is a little bit different, but they're just as smart. We see how Patrick Mahomes, how intelligent he is, and being able to decipher defenses and pick apart defenses. It's just been just given the opportunity. So it's nice to see. It's nice to see. Long overdue, but it's very nice to see.
Well, Tommy, you face reality. You talk about the integration in college sports and all that stuff. That's part of what your repertoire is. What are your thoughts when you see 16 black?
Well, I think it was Tony Dungy who was a quarterback at Minnesota in college
Right.
before he went to the NFL and was switched to a defensive back. I think he was the one who first said that he's looking forward to the day when we just identify guys as a quarterback and not a black quarterback. I don't know. Maybe we're there, or maybe we're almost there. I don't know. But yeah, like Mel said, that's half the league. And how many backups are there? I'm sure there's more than a lot more black quarterbacks. And I want to know is, do these guys know who Willie Thrower is? Willie Thrower was the first black quarterback in the NFL with the Chicago Bears in 1953. He's from Michigan State. Do they know who Sandy Stevens is? He's the first black quarterback to win a national title at Minnesota and the Rose Bowl game. Do they know who Jimmy Ray is? Jimmy Ray
Right.
is the South's first black quarterback to win a national title. He was recruited out of the segregated South on Duffy Doherty's Underground Railroad. And Jimmy Ray always said one reason he had confidence in Michigan State was Willie Thrower had been a black quarterback there. These guys, I'll bet you very few of them could identify those guys. And then the other people we have to thank are the black quarterbacks in college, mostly in college. There were a few that had a chance in the NFL, like Jim Gilliam. They never got a chance to move on. They had to go on to the Canadian Football League or whatever. Warren Moon had to go to the Canadian Football League before he got to
Right.
the NFL. So these guys paved the way. They paid a price. And if their histories aren't known, it's a shame. And I'll mention two more names because this relates to how I'm always saying people don't understand. Alabama had nothing to do with the integration of college football. Integration of college football took place in the 60s, led by Michigan State and the Southern schools that began to desegregate in the 60s, long before that 1970 USC-Alabama game. And in 1972, Tennessee's Condredge Holloway and Georgia Tech's Eddie McShann were the first black quarterbacks to start a game against each other in the South. Bear Bryant never recruited Condredge Holloway because he said that the Alabama wasn't ready for a black quarterback. He was a 3-year starter at Tennessee, and then he played in the Canadian Football League. So there's a lot of guys that paved the way to where we are today over a half a century of time.
Well, I mean,
Damon Allen, Marcus Allen's brother, put up big numbers up in the CFL.
Yeah, Damon, Marcus Allen's little brother, right?
well, I'll add another name to the whole thing. How about Dennis Franklin out of Michigan, who was drafted by the Lions, and they had him as a wide receiver. All he did was win with the Michigan Wolverines. We could talk about a lot of these guys, but I remember Dennis Franklin real well. I didn't think he was qualified to play quarterback, but Dennis did a whale of a job with the Wolverines. We could talk about this all night. But, hey, Steve, what percentage is your phone at right now? I got to know.
39.
Good. I got a few more topics to get inside of that 39%, right? That's okay. Stevie gets on one way or the other. I love the guy, even though he doesn't know the difference between USF or US or UCF. Well, he does when he wants to bust my chops. All right, we'll continue. Yeah, sorry. So there we go. Continue. We're at 39% with him, so we can slip this one in from Philadelphia. All right. Zadarius Smith signs a 1-year contract with the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, the Eagles sense that they needed a pass rusher after a 24-20 win over Dallas. And by the way, the Eagles also added Tank Bigsby yesterday. Steven, your thoughts about Zadarius Smith, Tank Bigsby, and all those guys?
Well, Tank Bigsby basically is a cause and effect of Will Shipley, getting a couple of his ribs broken in the Dallas game, so he's going to be out. I think it's like 6 weeks or something like that is his timetable. So he's going to miss at least the next 2 months. So you're going to. I think the other reason for that is you need some help in the return game. I think Bigsby can definitely help you there. Zadarius Smith is veteran guy on that defense. Somebody to calm Jalen Carter down a little bit, hopefully, but also somebody to help give you a rotation for that edge rush, regardless if he's Bellin Jalix Hunt or Nolan Smith. What the way Philadelphia has done their ends or their edge rushers is it's always been by rotation. You lose a Josh Sweat, he signs a big contract with Arizona. You don't go and draft edge rushers in the draft early on to replace that. So, giving the guys an opportunity to kind of just show what they got, he's just there. It's not too big of a price tag on it. He's I think he's 34. So you got some veteran leadership there, a guy that can go and get after the quarterback when needed, and a guy that could potentially help you come January. So we'll see how effective he is and how he's still wheeling dealing. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a few 1 or 2 more moves before September's over.
All right, so Mel, what are your thoughts about Zadarius Smith going to Philadelphia?
Well, I thought, there's a lot of talk about him going back to Detroit, but evidently Brad Holmes and the hierarchy up in Detroit didn't feel the need to bring him back in. The way they played the other day, they should be second guessing that right now. Philadelphia, they don't mind bringing in talented individuals that can get after the quarterback. And we know that's one thing that he can do. He's heavy-handed. He's a big guy. He's a veteran, knows how to play the game. And so that's just adding more talent. They get them pretty cheap probably, and they're just increasing their depth. I mean, that's what you want. You need to have depth. You need to be able to rotate those guys so that they're going full tilt each and every time that they're in there rushing the passer. So I think it was a good move by Philadelphia and possibly a missed opportunity by Detroit.
Candy, Tommy, have any opinions on Zadarius Smith, or do you want to move on?
Well, I just say that sounds like it's a good fit, and like Mel says, it's a good move for the money. It's not costing them a lot of money. This is the same but different. I always think of Rodney Harrison when he was with the Chargers. He was such a great player, and then the Chargers thought he was at the end of his career, and then he ended up filling a hole with the Patriots and winning a couple Super Bowls. He still had a lot of mileage left in him as an older player, and then Rodney Harrison was just a great guy. Period.
Okay, Candy.
Zadarius Smith was selected in the 4th round of the 2015 draft. He's played for the Packers, the Vikings, the Browns, the Lions, and now the Eagles. And yeah, he's probably more of a backup role at this point, or he's not a guy that's going to be in there for all the snaps, but he's a guy that is very good at what he does. So even if he's in there for a 4th of the snaps, that gives rest for the other ones that are playing more. And it's a good rotation piece. And he's a good backup if anybody, goes down. You always want to have some veteran people that you can insert wherever you need them when there's possibly injuries, because we all know injuries happen in this league.
Okay, fair enough. Let's continue on here. Let's go out to Miami Dolphins. This franchise is an absolute train wreck. They really are. Daniel Jones thumped the Miami Dolphins 33-8 on Sunday. But here's what you have. Tyreek Hill's last 30-yard catch came in week 1 last year versus the Jags, 365 days ago. Can you believe that? And that's just unbelievable. His ex-wife, Keita Vaccaro, is accusing him of multiple domestic violent incidents that occurred during their 17-month marriage. Now, with Hill's divorce to Vaccaro, it provides $20,000 to $50,000 in spending money to maintain their lifestyle during the divorce proceedings. Hill must make a one-time payment of $500,000 to cover $457,517 in legal fees and $100K for a new car after a request for a $200,000 Bentley was denied. Boy, I really feel bad for this woman. So I really do. I mean, it just blows me away. Oh my gosh. So let's talk about what we have. And don't worry, there's more to this thing here. Well, let's start here. Daniel Jones thumped them 33-8 in Indy. Okay. Colts had won an opener in ages. And now you got Tyreek, man. 30-yard catch, this guy. He goes from Patrick Mahomes to Tua, and the best you're going to get is haven't even caught anything over 30 yards in over 365 days versus Indy. Oh, my gosh. And then add Keita to the picture. And what do you got, Steven?
Well, first, Tyreek Hill needs to clean his life up. I mean, your estranged wife, well, I think the one thing you didn't mention is that she also has complete access to the $5.5 million mansion. That's her.
Right.
So, I mean, we say it all the time about these athletes needing to protect themselves. This is why. You were barely married to this woman for 18 months, guys. Prenup. I listen. I know we're all men of the flesh. We know what it's like. Probably not to the level of Tyreek Hill because he's on another level when it comes to him and women. I get it. Prenups will save you a lot of these headaches in the long run. His performance on the field leaves much to be desired. It seems like as soon as he got traded out of Kansas City and got that contract, he has completely let his foot off the gas. I could be wrong. I could be looking at this another way. From what I'm hearing is that Miami's doing whatever they can to shop him around to get him out of there, to free up more cap space to kind of retool this team moving forward. I'm not sure what's going to happen. He could wind up in somewhere like Pittsburgh. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen with Tyreek Hill. I know one thing is just not working out there down in Miami. For whatever reason, whether it be his personal stuff, his overall attitude of the team, I can't speak to all of it. What I can say is Daniel Jones definitely balled out, and we can't call him Danny Dimes no more. Danny Dimes died in New York. That's Indiana Jones right there. Okay? That's Indiana Jones right there. He's the first quarterback in NFL history to score on all 7 of his drives in the game. Wow. He's the only quarterback in NFL history to do that. So I'm not sitting there saying Daniel Jones is the next coming of Peyton Manning down there in Indianapolis. I'm just saying he might be the right guy right now to move that Colts team, through the next handful of years. Maybe it's time you see about who's interested in Mr. Richardson down there. If Anthony Richardson ain't working out, he's still a young kid. You can move him to somewhere and get some value. Obviously you ain't getting a first for him. You could at least get a second or third, maybe another guy to help your team win to compete in that division. So very interesting to see how that game turned out. Did not see Indianapolis blowing the absolute doors off of the Miami Dolphins, but they got a lot of problems, and it's not just Tua, it's not just the offense, it's not just Tyreek Hill. They have a lot of problems down there. They need to fix it. I would not be surprised if Miami is a top 5 pick next season.
Great stuff, Steven. Don't worry, I've got something on the quarterback coach after we get through this. So hang in there with us because you touched on something pretty interesting. Candy, your thoughts about Tyreek Hill, and you know that situation is an absolute mess.
One of the things that I will say about Tyreek, and maybe it goes further down than Tyreek, but he has issues with his personal life. He has issues with his personal relationships. But even Tua came out and said he's still working on his relationship with Tyreek. Well, come on, you've been together for how long? What do you mean you're still working on it? It's not like you're a brand new quarterback to the system and new to the team with Tyreek coming in. You've played together for how long, or been on the same team for how long? Miami, from what I can tell, Miami has a culture problem. Not just a Tyreek Hill problem, not just a Tua problem. You know, Indy had 418 total yards to the Dolphins' 211 yards. They doubled their yards, total yards. Indy played great. Dolphins aren't going anywhere. I'm sorry. They have a culture problem there. And I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't Mike McDaniel's last year.
Well, we'll get into that another time, Candy. Okay.
Okay.
We'll be talking about more next week. Mark my word. Yeah, Josh Fedor will be also going out there and covering the Miami USF game as well. All right. So go ahead, Mel.
Well, Tyreek's one of those guys that we're going to, a year from now, 2 years from now, we're going to have that same conversation. Tyreek Hill's broke. Now, you can't have all these baby mamas or ex-wives and children and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
I mean, the quickest way to go broke is fast women and slow horses. That's the quickest way to lose all your money. And he's got the fast women down pat. Now, Miami's problem is not Tyreek Hill. Tyreek's already won a Super Bowl. What he should be doing is trying to maximize his earning potential and being a good teammate so that he can maximize his earning potential during the window that he has to earn this money. Because again, once you're out of the professional, once you're out of this entertainment business, it's very, very difficult. It's not the same. So what he should be trying to do is focusing on how he can make as much money as he possibly can. Winning and losing is really irrelevant for him because he's already won a Super Bowl. He just needs to be trying to maximize his earning potential. Now, Miami, it shouldn't surprise anyone that Miami lost in the fashion in which they did because there's a lot of dysfunction there. They don't have an adult in the room. They went from somebody who was super strict. I guess they thought he was super strict. Now they swung the gate all the way to the other side to somebody who's super lax. He doesn't have any kind of discipline. Players really don't respect him, and it's just kind of a free for all there in the locker room. They've got to get the locker room back there. They got to get a hold of the locker room. They got to get control of the locker room. These players are just there, really, basically, probably just trying to get themselves a check. From week to week, they're not really concerned about. They're concerned about it, but not really concerned about winning. You look at Tua. I mean, Joe Burrow was the first quarterback drafted in that draft, and then I think Tua went second. He was the second quarterback drafted, and then right after, Tua. Miami had an opportunity to draft Herbert, but drafted Tua instead of Herbert. Now, how's that worked out for them? And then later on in that draft, Green Bay, I think they trade up and they get Jordan Love. Now look at what all those quarterbacks are doing versus what Tua is doing. The quarterbacks that they passed up on to get Tua, so to take Tua rather.
Right.
Tua is not the answer, unfortunately. And there's a blueprint out there right now, and they talked about it. They take away his first read, he gets happy feet. He doesn't want to get hit. He's been hit. He's been concussed so badly where he's had those seizures out there in the field. He doesn't want to take those types of hits. And so right now there's a blueprint out there of how you attack the Miami Dolphins, how you attack Tua in the passing game. You just take away that first read, and he gets happy feet, and he might throw it to the other team. But Tyreek, he just needs to be worried about himself, be a good teammate, be a good citizen, and just try to continue to collect as many checks as he possibly can for as many years as he possibly can.
Tommy?
Well, we learned Tyreek Hill's not very smart when he left Kansas City. Quality franchise like that was.
Oh, that was smart. He got paid. That was smart.
Oh, he's not going to get paid at Kansas City?
They weren't going to pay him that kind of
They
money.
weren't going to pay him. I'm with Mel here. He was smart to get his ring. He got out there and he got his bag. And I also agree with Mel. He needs to be worried about moving forward to make sure he gets another bag.
Well, where's his money now that he made at Miami? He would have had more. He would have had more stability and a longer future and a longer foundation and establishment with the Kansas City area if he'd stayed there and maybe won another Super Bowl ring. But I didn't finish my sentence. He gets to Miami and says that Tua throws the ball better than Patrick Mahomes. So how smart is the guy? And then he became a sympathetic figure when the Miami cops dragged him out of his car on the way to the game.
Right.
And he's lost all that cachet. He's no longer a sympathetic figure.
Yeah.
So Tyreek Hill, I don't have anything good to say about him.
I don't either. All right, so let's go back to what Steven was really touching base on. Colts quarterback coach Cameron Turner thinks Turner on Anthony Richardson. I feel like I've tried everything I can, and I feel like he's giving a great effort in that aspect too. I just think right now his consistency is not where I want it to be. Enter Daniel Jones. All right, so with that said, Steven, go ahead and let's talk about what the QB coach has to say about this.
He's how old again? Someone please tell me. He's been in the league almost 3 years. He's still younger than Jaden Daniels. I say this all the time. Sometimes it's not necessarily the quarterback. It's also the coaching and the system you're in. Everything, you have to have a perfect marriage of all of it. The coaching, the team, the quarterback. It's a very sensitive thing. And if one of those three things ain't vibing right, none of it's going to work right. I do think Anthony Richardson does need to kind of grow up some, but I don't think that the Colts organization has all the tools for him to perform the way he needs to. He does need to pick up some really basic stuff. I'm not going to argue with that. But again, I'm saying we're still talking to a guy that's still what 22, 23 years old. He was one of the youngest first round draft picks we've had in NFL history. This is like, to me, that what this feels like when John Gruden gave up on Randall Cunningham. Okay. I thought it was a little too early. He didn't give him remember, Randall been through three different offensive systems in less than 5 years. So every time he picked something up, it was getting torn away, and he's learning all over again.
Right.
What happened when he went to Minnesota? Oh, that's right. He had the best year of his career. It was also as he was getting older, and sometimes it takes being mature and getting older to get to that point. Some guys mature early faster. I don't necessarily agree with giving up on Anthony just yet. But if you feel your organization is like we need to win now, we need to be better now, then send him somewhere else where he can develop and go be a quarterback. Because go ahead, Candy, you're next.
No, finish your thought, Steven. You're on the
No, I'm good. I beat this horse down.
All right, go ahead, Candy. Beat it some more.
Anthony Richardson, he's what, 23? Yeah, he's 23 right now. He was born in Miami, Florida. He's also had injury problems. And that, between injury problems and not a consistent coaching staff and consistency, we've said that time and time again. If you don't have consistent coaches, it's hard to have success in this league.
Unless you're Jalen Hurts.
Exactly. Well, there's always going to be an exception to the rule, but for the most part, you need consistent coaches. Going from college to the pros so I'm going to say for me, I've never played, obviously, football. So do I think it's a big jump? You're still playing the same game, but it is a big jump because it is a different game. It's a faster game. It's a different pace. So not everybody's cut out for it. And I think especially when you don't have the same coaches to help you learn systems and the same system, and all of a sudden you got a new system, you're learning a new system, and here's it, that makes it harder. And then when you have compound it with injury problems, it's not a recipe for success.
Mel?
Here's the problem. They drafted Anthony Richardson. They knew he was raw. He was raw. Okay. So you had to be patient with him. Now, we live in a microwave generation where we want results now. The guy had 13 starts in college. That's why I don't like those guys. I like a guy that started 2 or 3 years in college. He's been under the fire for a long time. What Anthony Richardson needs in order to get better is he needs to play. That's the only way he's going to get better. Or you're going to find out what you have with him. Otherwise, we're just going to be doing this back and forth, talking about they're giving up on him. They don't have the patience anymore. They don't take the time to develop these players anymore. He wasn't developed in college, rather, because he only had 13 starts. He didn't play a whole lot. I think he was hurt in college as well, so he didn't play a whole lot in college. But had freakish athleticism. Went to the combine and did freakish things. Well, they knew what they were getting when they drafted him. They were getting a raw project. So they needed to develop it. And the only way that you can develop it is you got to come up with a plan. Owner, GM, coach, they all got to be on the same page. Hey, look, I'm going to give you 2 or 3 years with this guy. You got to have some kind of plan because you're going to lose the first year. With Peyton Manning, they didn't win the first year, but they had a plan for Peyton Manning. Even though he had a whole bunch of college starts under his belt, the NFL game was a lot different. But they had a plan with Peyton Manning. They have to have a plan with this kid. He's a young kid. He's extremely raw, but he has a whole lot of talent. And that's what everybody saw is he has a tremendous upside. But if you don't allow this kid to develop, you're just going to ruin the kid, and you just keep recycling these quarterbacks over and over and over again, and he ends up bouncing around, and he never realizes his full potential. Maybe he does, because maybe he gets lucky and gets an Andy Reid or somebody like that sees the potential in him and really takes the time with him in the film room to show him exactly what it is that he expects from him out there in the football field. But the kid is raw. The only way he's going to get better is to play. He's not going to get better standing on the sideline holding the clipboard. He's not going to get better running the scout team in practice. In practice. Only way he's going to get better, the only way he has an opportunity to get better is to play.
Tommy?
Yeah, he has a long way to go with so little experience in college and then trying to jump to the NFL. It didn't look like a good situation from the very beginning, especially if they didn't have a plan in place for him to bring him along slowly. I don't think does he have a future? I don't think you have to look any further than the guy who's the starting quarterback. Daniel Jones had a lot more experience coming out of college, but he had his confidence challenge playing for the Giants with no blocking. And now he's kind of rebuilt himself. He's got a chance to show he is Danny Dimes, if not Indiana James. But I think the other interesting thing about Anthony Richardson is, like everyone said, he's young and he still has some potential and he'll still get another chance. And I'm going to go back to my Tony Dungy comment. Does that mean he's a quarterback? He's not a black quarterback. He's being viewed for his potential, and nobody's writing him off because he's black, he's not smart enough, or anything like that.
Well, the bottom line is with Anthony Richardson is I'm going to go back to what Mel said. The guy is raw, so you have to be patient. 13 games, and you're willing to gamble on him, then you definitely better be doubly patient. And the Colts have failed him in that area. They really are, because you have to have good coaching and you have to have a good, stable system for sure. So I agree. I think there's a lot of fault mainly on the Colts organization. The quarterback coaches and helping matters by making these comments to help his confidence by any stretch of the imagination. If you're doing it, you better be more positive than you are negative at this point. And maybe Daniel Jones is good, and maybe he can hold a clipboard and take a step back, because just because you have a first-round quarterback doesn't mean he's going to ultimately fail. Jim Plunkett made out pretty well, if I may add, with a different change of scenery, and I'll leave it at that. Let's go back to the Miami Dolphins, since they seem to be my favorite whipping boy tonight, and they will be next week if it gets ugly with the Patriots too. But get this, the average single game ticket for the Dolphins is $141. Now versus the Colts, Tua Love his numbers: 14 of 23, 114 yards, a touchdown, 2 interceptions. Oh, they're beating him up good down here. Tyreek Hill, our favorite whipping boy, 4 for 40, 0 touchdowns. Jalen Waddle, 4 for 30 yards, no touchdowns. The only bright spot in this game is Devon Ackley, who ends up getting 7 rushes for 55 yards, 3 catches for 20 yards, and a touchdown for the only touchdown for the Fish. Would you spend $141 for an average ticket to watch this, Steven?
No, that's why I'm thankful I'm in Philadelphia with a good football team. But I'll say this much. I don't like how the prices around the league are going sky high. You know, you just heard some guy got bamboozled out of a couple $100 because he was trying to get tickets to opening night with the Eagles Cowboys game on. There's so many different places to get tickets from. I mean, obviously scalpers for tickets have been around for ages. You got to know who you can trust and who you can't. But when you're looking at the overall prices, not just of the tickets, go look at some of the concession prices. Go look how much it costs for a beer. It's insane. It's insane. So, I mean,
not at the Benz.
Yeah, y'all keep reminding me about that. Y'all got y'all got a Chick-fil-A down there too?
No, I mean Arthur Blank, man, they make it real affordable for you at the concession stand. It's cheap. I mean, I think you can get free refills on your drink. They just have the soda fountain there. You get buy a cup, you get free refills. Go there as many times as you want. Hot dogs and stuff like that. It's real cheap at the Benz. Real cheap.
It's almost $17 up here in Philadelphia.
For what?
We're talking about the Miami Dolphins. Would you watch $141 for that?
I'm going to say the pricing across the league, not just in Miami. I get it. Miami, it's bad. I'm not paying those prices to watch that garbage play on that field. I'm just sitting there saying, on top of that, all around the league, prices for concession tickets, all of it is going up. Dude, it's $50 for parking here in Philadelphia. Yeah. If I have an RV, it's $100.
Well, okay. All I'm going to tell you is the Miami Hurricanes, to me, play in the NFL. I'm not sure where the Miami Dolphins play, and I'll leave it at that.
I'm sure right around now, Dolphins fans will take the trade for the Hurricane players for the Dolphin players.
Yeah, well, I'll say one thing about the Miami Dolphins, though. They've been good to you, Eagles. They gifted Vic Fangio to you. So,
I thank them. They were throwing a boat party when he left. I'm sure I'll take the party parade down Broad Street over your old boat party because y'all didn't want to get worked hard or held accountable. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I just set you up like you did with me, UCF, USF, whatever. And by the way, an update from last week when we talked about UNLV football. Alex Zorgi, the quarterback who transferred over from Michigan, is out for the year with a season-ending injury. Just thought I'd mention that as well. Candy, what are your thoughts about the Miami Dolphins $141 ticket?
You know, we've all said that the NFL markets all of their teams. They're going to make money. Are the Dolphins a good team? Is that a good buy? No, but you're seeing an NFL game. You're going to see two teams. You don't just see the Dolphins. You're going to see another team. Now, whether it's a good game or not, that remains to be seen. But everything has gone up. All the prices of everything has gone up. You know, going to a concert is going to cost you a lot of money. Going to the grocery store, I used to be able to fill up my cart, and it only cost me how much? And now it costs me triple or quadruple that. So, is it a lot of money? Of course it is. But going to any NFL stadium is going to be a lot of money. To park your car any place, it's going to be a lot of money at these ballparks. It's getting to the point where it's not going to be for the average fan to go see a game in person. You're going to watch it on TV or stream it on one of your streaming services because it's going to the game is going to be for the people that can really afford it. And that's where it's going at this point, or unless you can get in through a corporate sponsor. You know, if a corporate, because there's how many suites now where corporations have suites, and if you get an in from that way, then that's going to be how some of these families are going to be going into those games.
Well, all I can tell you, the product in the field is bad, and it's only going to get worse. All right, Mel.
I'm sorry. What was that question again?
We're talking
I
about
was
Miami Dolphins' average ticket price is $141.
Yeah, I don't really like to go to games anyway. I like to sit at home and watch them in the comfort of my home. Then I can kind of, I can, put them at. I can put four of them up there at one time if there's four games playing, or two of them up there and watch them simultaneously. Yeah, I don't really particularly care for crowds or anything like that. And parking is always difficult. When you're used to going to games in the tunnel and just coming out, having everything laid out for you, when you have to figure it out, it's just a little bit different. I guess I'm spoiled in that way. So I know, it's laid out for me at home. I know where the remote is. I just click it, hit the little clicker, turn on the remote, sit down and relax and watch the game. But yeah, that is a lot of money. I remember growing up going to all the Lions games, and we had Lions season tickets, but it was all laid out for us. We parked in a certain spot, go in a certain way, go right to the seats. It was all laid out. I guess as an adult, I just haven't laid it out for my kids. I haven't really bothered to try to figure out a way to get that done. But it is expensive. But again, it's entertainment. Movie tickets are high. Everything is high.
So,
Everything is pricey. Concert tickets. Nobody's complaining about those Beyonce and Taylor Swift tickets, but they're going. So we don't want to hear it.
So are the Dolphins worth $141 for an average ticket?
Dolphins aren't worth $1.41 right now.
Thank you. Well, don't worry. You'll have a tribute coming up to a guy worth way more than that in a few minutes. So, all right, Tommy, what are your thoughts about the Dolphins and their average ticket price?
Dolphins attendance. Was it sold out for the season opener?
I don't know. Their season opener is this Sunday.
Oh, I thought
They were in
game.
they were in Indy before.
Yeah, well, let's see what kind of attendance they have. It seems like everything's being stretched too thin, but we've been saying this about sports for 50 years when free agency first came along. We said these teams were going to price themselves out of the market, and there seems to be a bottomless well. The market always expands, and the stadiums are still full. Until the stadiums aren't full, people. I agree with the others. I don't like to go to games. You got to get there 2-3 hours early to beat the crowd, and then it takes you 2-3 hours to get home. It's just too long of a day. And but the market keeps expanding, and it's an old story to say that they're stretching things too thin because they haven't so far.
All right, we're going to go to a station break real quick. Candy, go ahead.
Okay, South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth, talks about his 40-plus years in the business and how it has evolved and changed. Old school media versus new school media. Get your copy today. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is a plethora of great content, so go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. If you want to advertise, call Scott, 954-304-4941. And if you want to be a guest on a show, or you want to have a topic that you want us to cover, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. And if I talk too fast, it's been scrolling on the bottom. Back to you, Scott.
All right, Candy, well done. All right, so let's talk about everybody's game of the week. Last week, which one stood out in your mind, Stephen?
I actually have two of them. Love the Pittsburgh Jets game. I thoroughly enjoyed that one. I was hoping that Justin Fields would pull that out at the end, but either way, that was a great one. And though I turned it off and missed the last 4 minutes of the game, the Buffalo Bills dismantling of the Baltimore Ravens with with being down 17. What was it, 17 points? I believe it was.
Right.
So yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what did we talk about as we were leading up to the season? Who's on the hot seat, right? Well, Baltimore Ravens, right?
All right.
It's it's Jim Harbaugh. It's Lamar Jackson. This is supposed to be their year. When you thoroughly play that well, then have that defense that you got that everyone likes to tell us is so great. Get undressed by Josh Allen. I mean, he is the reigning MVP and all that. I get that, but sometimes you gotta hold strong. I will note something too. As I say, I do respect my rivals here. Dak Prescott looked pretty good Thursday night. If it wasn't for 4 drops by CeeDee Lamb, we're having a different conversation this week. So we'll see if they can figure out what's going on with CeeDee's dropsies. But I thought week 1 of the regular season delivered in many different forms. I'll also note this, that Eagles and Cowboys almost set the opening night record for most views. I think it was like 28.3 million people watched it. And that's also with an hour and 10-minute weather delay because of lightning, where they lost a lot of their viewers. So they probably would have broken it. Great start to the season. I will say this: the referees better be real when they're calling these taunting penalties on players, because they feel they're over celebrating. Because what happened to Nolan Smith last week was ridiculous. He was called for taunting. Meanwhile, the player's 5 feet away from him. He's not standing over top him, or he's just excited he made his play. I get we want to clean that up, but you make sure it's actual taunting, not just the guy celebrating a tackle. He didn't do any movement outside of flexing. And then you call him for a 15-yard penalty. He's not standing over the player. Other than that, great first week.
Well, Matt Prater to the rescue for the Buffalo Bills. And by the way, your man Jalen Carter out here got fined $57K, served his 1-game suspension because it was on the first.
I think it's a shame Dak didn't get one too, because he started the whole Spitgate thing.
Yeah, well, I talked about a little bit on the Florida USF game, but Jalen Carter with his 57th game. But look at it, if you're going to get nailed, you might as well go ahead and get the one play over with, and you're out the whole game, so you can come back fresh and start all over. Hello, Kneecap Fighting. Glad to see you in the chat room. Great stuff, okay? So Jalen Carter, you're off the hook. You can play next week. Just keep your moisture to yourself, okay? But that said, Candy, what game stood out to you?
Well, I'm sorry it was at your expense, Scott, but I have to say that I was pleasantly surprised and happy with the play of the Packers as a whole. They are the youngest team in the NFL right now. We all wondered their run defense, what was going to happen, shipping Kenny Clark in and bringing in Micah Parsons. Yes, there was going to be excitement, Micah Parsons and stuff like that, but how was the whole team going to gel together, considering that trade happened last week? And how was the offense going to play? Because let's face it, in the preseason, I talked about it. There was penalties after penalties after penalties. And last year it was drop ball after drop ball after drop ball from Jordan Love. So I was happy to see much improvement in all of those areas against a team that, albeit they did not have a good game, they're a good team. And it's I was just happy to see that type of a performance by the Packers.
I don't take that stuff personal. I don't care. It is what it is. The Packers played a better game than the Lions. I guess the one thing the Lions should probably learn from that is they plan to use Isaac Tesla a lot more in that offense, because he got 3 of 67 snaps and a touchdown. That was one of the best catches I've ever seen. So you better get him in the ball game a lot more, and that's what they're going to have to do for sure. All right, go ahead, Mel.
Yeah, I like the Pittsburgh game was interesting. Pittsburgh and the Jets game. I think Justin Fields played well. There was a lot of points scored, between both of those teams, and both of those teams had difficulty scoring last year, and neither one of them had difficulty scoring this year. And that could be one or two things. I mean, the offense has gotten better, or the defenses have gotten worse. So that's something I think that's something they're going to have to watch for the rest of the year. But it was nice to see Pittsburgh being able to put up some points and having some good quarterback play, because they've had very, very poor quarterback play. Even when Justin was there, I mean, the quarterback play just wasn't very well. It was limited, to say the least. But I think that they have a lot of confidence in him there in New York, and Aaron Glenn is showing a lot of confidence in him, allowing him to throw the ball downfield a little bit. and I think it's opened up that offense, and he looked very impressive. I was very pleased with how he played. I feel he's a good player. I think he just needs to be in the right type of situation with somebody telling him and encouraging him and building up his confidence. And I think he can be a pretty good quarterback. So that was a game that I thought was interesting. I fell asleep on the Buffalo and Baltimore game. I actually thought Baltimore was going to win that game. Woke up in the morning and found out they had lost. Well, that was a good game too. I mean, those are two quality football teams. But again, typically defenses are ahead of schedule, ahead of the offenses. But you look at some of these scores, especially with a team like Baltimore who thrives on defense. For them to give up that many points would be very concerning to me if I'm a coach. And it doesn't matter whether it's to Buffalo or if it was to Miami. It doesn't really matter. It's very, very concerning that they gave up that many points. Buffalo, giving up 169 yards to Derrick Henry, that's a problem. But again, he's a problem for most teams as well. But those are the two games that really stood out for me this weekend.
All right, Tommy.
Yeah, the Buffalo-Baltimore game stood out for me primarily because I liked both those quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. The thing I always remember about Lamar Jackson, because he was here in the ACC at Louisville, and after he won his Heisman Trophy at the ACC Media Days kickoff, he was getting asked about the pressure to win another Heisman. And he said, there's no pressure. I wasn't trying to win it the first time. I've always liked that answer. And then I've always liked how Josh Allen came out of Wyoming. And it was a great finish to that game after it seemed like it was going one way. The other two games, I guess, that were big surprises to me is I didn't think Aaron Rodgers had anything left in him. He's still got 16 games to go, but he sure is off to a great start. 4 touchdown passes?
Yeah.
And then I thought the Cowboys were going to go downhill real rapidly, but they were impressive against the Eagles.
Yeah, I'll say there's only one game that stood out to me. It was definitely the Pittsburgh and the Jets game. Chris Boswell, 60-yard field goal. What a great moment for him. Aaron Rodgers, 244 yards passing, 4 touchdowns. But here's what he said. I'm just glad that he not only got even with Aaron Glenn, who could doubt him, but it was great to get even with the entire Jets organization.
And since someone mentioned it, J.J. McCarthy looked really good after throwing that pick 6 last night, too.
Well,
marching Minnesota back against the Bears, too.
Right. Well, great to know. I'll follow you up on that one as well. I wasn't finished. Okay, so here's the thing. Now, I was glad for Aaron Rodgers. Let's face it. Say what you want about the guy as a drama guy, but he got even with the Jets. He paid them back in a big way, but with that impressive performance, and he did it in New York in front of 83,000 of them. He did. So, here's a guy like Aaron Glenn. Get you to fly across the country to tell you they don't want you. You could have done that with a Zoom call. You really didn't need to drive him there. So what is he going to do? There you go. Take that. And to the rest of you, I wasn't a problem. You guys are the most dysfunctional organization on the planet. And yes, I'm glad you went out there and brought that up with J.J. McCarthy, because now here's my thinking. I'm glad that Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, the two Lions coveted assistants, got head coaching jobs, are 0-1. If that isn't because that sets the stage for a Dan Campbell. And
all of them are. You got to think about it. They're 0-3. They lost 2 total games last season. 2, right?
Right. Exactly.
Them combined, they're 0-3.
Right, but I was glad to see Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn lose their first one because they went to bad organizations in the first place. So, you're 0-1. Welcome back to losing. All right. Well, you know what? Let's talk about the Micah.
Scott, one last thing. Can I say about Aaron Rodgers? With the 4 touchdowns that he threw on Sunday, he now tied Tom Brady for 28 4-touchdown games. So for the most, so he has a chance to beat Tom Brady's record in that respect.
Okay, sounds good. Let's talk about the Micah Parsons of impact versus the Detroit Lions. He did get 1 sack. The Lions offense definitely sputtered, and the Packers rolled to a 27-13 win. Let's face the reality. The Packers are a hungry team. They've been beaten up by the Lions the last few years. Good, hungry defense. Steven, some thoughts about Micah Parsons?
Well, I mean, limited snaps because obviously how late the trade came, how surprising the trade was, and everything like that. He was still impactful. He had Panay's stool spinning like a top, and that sack came in a situation where Goff is about to break the pocket and beats Sewell, runs halfway around the formation and runs him down for the sack. So he had a big impact. I'm going to reframe my previous statements. The Green Bay Packers are going to be the team to beat in the North this year. There's no way around it. Between having the tools they have on offense, adding somebody like Micah Parsons to that defense, that was already a pretty good defense beforehand. So the Micah Parsons effect is going to only get bigger over the coming weeks as he gets more familiar with the scheme, with his teammates, what to expect, etc. The Micah Parsons effect is going to take the Packers deep in the playoffs, and they should be a team to watch moving forward.
All right, Candy.
Micah Parsons brought an energy, and I think he drew from the crowd because I think he was really surprised by how well the fans really cheered for him when he even came onto the field. And I think I think home field advantage was an advantage in that game because I think they really brought the energy, and that made the defense feed off that energy from the crowd. They are a fast defense because they're so young, and I think that's part of it too. And I think that's what attributed partly to their success. Micah Parsons has already said that he's going to help. He's going to be training Luther Van Ness, who needs a little bit of help too. I'm excited to see what this defense and what this team does. But Micah brought an excitement, a quickness, and a speed factor to everybody. I mean, and he helped because sometimes they were double teaming him so that other teammates were getting free as well. So I'm excited.
Mel?
Yeah, this will go down as the dumbest trade in history. I mean, Micah Parsons, what you see is what he's foreshadowing what's coming. He's not in shape yet. He's just going to continue to get in better shape. He has better players around him. So he's going to be able to get after the quarterback. I suspect here real shortly that he'll break the NFL sack record because the guy is so talented in getting after the ball. And right now he's got a chip on his shoulder too. He wants to show the Cowboys what they gave up. I mean, it doesn't make any sense when you go out there and you scout talent and you develop that talent, and the talent becomes everything that you thought that he could become, and then you don't want to pay him. It doesn't make why do you do that? That doesn't make any sense. So you just wasted all those resources in this individual, all this energy and effort that you put in this individual, and you're gonna let somebody else reap the benefits of it because you traded him away in his prime. So this is gonna go down as the worst trade in NFL history. And yeah, I agree with Steven. The Packers are without question by the way that they beat up on the Lions. If the Lions can't figure out a way to get some offense and some defense, but in particular, if they can't put up some points, I mean, they were the number one scoring offense in the league last year, and they looked terrible. I mean, they looked the same way they looked in the preseason. It didn't matter who had the keys to the car; all of them looked terrible. The quarterback play just the offense. I'm not going to say the quarterback play. The offense is just it doesn't look good, and you can see that's obviously because Ben Johnson's not there anymore.
Tommy?
Yeah, this could have played out better the way it started. He not only played more snaps than they were expecting him to be able to play, but he seemed to spark the other guys. I hate to praise a Michigan guy, but Rashawn Gary had a great game too. So it's playing out great through one game. But before the game, when they were talking about how he had to take some shots, some injections for his back, I started wondering, boy, did Jerry Jones know something that wasn't involved in this trade here that people weren't discussing? Because if you have a back injury, that's tough to deal with. But maybe not. Maybe he's fine, and it's going to continue the way the first game went.
I'm going to say one thing what I said when the trade came down. This trade reminds me of Reggie White. Once you brought Reggie White into Green Bay, what happened to the Packers? They went on to win a Super Bowl. We'll leave it at that. Next segment is Mel's. Okay, and he's going to do a tribute to Al Fracassa. But before I turn it over to Mel, let me talk about Alfred Casa's numbers. He began coaching at Royal Oak Shrine in 1960 and took over at Birmingham Brother Rice in 1969. He remained as coach in the Catholic League through 2013, amassing a 431, 17, and 7 record in 54 years on the sidelines. The source of Detroit Free Press, one of the winningest and longest tenured coaches in Michigan high school football history. Mel, the floor is yours. I know you talked about it on Facebook. Now you can talk about it again.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, would not be who I am if our paths had not crossed and my dad had not made that decision to send me to Brother Rice High School. The what Coach Fracassa demanded out of everyone, not just me, but out of everyone, is excellence. Not perfection, but excellence. He wanted you to give it everything that you had. One of his things, we always had a motto every year, be the best that you can be, was one of the mottos that we had. Life's battles don't go to the stronger or faster man, but to the man who thinks he can. He'd always say, do it better than it's ever been done before. He just always had some sort of motto that for the team each year. And you think about it, he's had in 44 years, he sent over 300 players to college. I think he had about 16 players that went to the NFL. What he instilled in us a toughness. We weren't always the biggest or the fastest or the strongest, but we were the most physical. In order to be physical, you have to have a sort of mental toughness. I don't think you can be physically tough without being mentally tough. And he instilled a mental toughness to us. The things that we had to do, that we did, we were very, very confident when we went out there in the football field because we know the kind of work that we put into it. Long before teams were in high school in particular doing anything in the spring, we had these things called agility drills in the winter. 6 o'clock in the morning, we're out there doing like combine like type stuff. And to end it off, we first started out whatever year it was, that's how many down-ups we'd have to do. Then it became 110 down-ups, because he wanted us to give 110%. After practice, we ran, these things called, we just what he demanded of you, and each and every player is he just wanted your best, whatever that was, whatever that was, and it's different for each player, obviously, but it had a tremendous impact on me and my brother. Obviously, like I said, I would not, coming from a public school, I started out as a public school kid and went to a private school, all boys Catholic school. My dad sent me there to be coached by this man and really be mentored by this man, and he took boys and taught them life skills about skills that would carry on with me for the rest of my life. When I got to UCLA, practice was easy for me because what I did in high school, the stuff we did in high school was ridiculous, but there was a purpose for it. And it was all to make us mentally tough so that when we got out there in the game and the game got difficult, we weren't going to quit. There was no dying us. So, what I said about Coach is, he had a long life. He lived 92 years.
Right.
He had a full life because he did what he loved to do. He was a man of tremendous faith, and he had a fruitful life because he has a lot of seeds out there. Each one of the 1,000 players that he coached is fruit from Al Fracassa, and we're all better for having crossed his path and having him coach us.
Well, Alfred Casa passes away on Sunday at the age of 92. Tommy, I know you've been around college athletics and high school. I'm sure you can appreciate what a guy like Alfred Casa is like. You're in Michigan. Do you have any recollections of Alfred Casa at all?
Yeah, well, I never knew him, always known of him, but I would like to add something whenever a guy like him passes on and hear what Mel had to just say. I just feel so jealous and envious that I never had anything like that as an experience with my high school coach. I look back on my high school coaches and I feel like I was robbed because that was the one thing I mentioned this before. When I became a sports writer after college and covered a lot of high school sports and met great high school coaches, I realized what I missed out on in life, that I didn't have a great mentor. And so I really feel like I was robbed when I hear these stories. And then also, in a way, it makes me angry when I hear them. but also jealous. And then the other thing I want to add about Al Fracassa is I was listening. One way I keep up with Michigan State sports is I listen to Jack Ebling's podcast shows because you can get them on the internet. And he had Dave Urema. You guys would have crossed paths a little bit, right, Mel?
Yeah, Dave Urema. He was a senior when I was a sophomore. He was All-American as a junior. Him and Paul Jokic.
Yeah, and he talked about how Fracassa would say you didn't have a big playbook. He said we might only run 5 plays, but we're going to run them all excellently and beat people with them. And then the other thing Jack Ebling said about him that was very interesting was that he was a backup quarterback at Michigan State behind Earl Morrow when they went to the Rose Bowl and won. And Earl Morrow had always said that one of the most important teammates he had was Al Fracassa, and he didn't even play. He was a backup. So that says a lot about a guy, too.
Yeah, you mentioned Jack Ebling and Earl Morrall. I met Earl Morrall at the Orange Bowl many years ago when he was an assistant with the Miami Hurricanes. They played Michigan State, and Jack Ebling, I've actually met him in North Carolina over at NSMA. You and I were there when he was there, so it's pretty interesting to bring those two names. A few other newsworthy notes I want to get to. Las Vegas Raiders head coach Pete Carroll has become the first NFL coach to win their debut with 4 consecutive different teams. I think we lost Steven. Obviously, I had a feeling we probably would. But then again, maybe we wouldn't. Now you see him, now you don't. Or maybe we do. I don't know, but here he comes. But anyways, here's Steven. What are your thoughts about what Pete Carroll pulled off? He wins debut now with 4 teams.
Listen, old man Carroll's still getting it done. I said I thought the Raiders could potentially make some noise and sneak into the playoffs. Obviously, the fact that the Chargers already upset Kansas City week 1 is kind of showing you maybe Kansas City is the team that doesn't make the playoffs this year. Maybe they're having their own type of Super Bowl hangover. Who knows? I'm not going to count the Chiefs out yet until we get into the meat and potatoes of the season, but looking to see what Carroll and the Raiders are going to be doing. Maybe you get a change of guard going out there in the AFC West.
Yeah, well, Pete Carroll's going to do a heck of a job there. He's got Chip Kelly as his offensive coordinator, and Andy Reid's a tough out. Not that you care about Chip Kelly because that reaches a bone with you.
No, if he ever gets back here to Philadelphia, they're going to burn him at the stake.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that. Yeah, well, maybe that's Chip Kelly, but they're not burning Andy Reid.
I will say this much. Chip Kelly would be smart if he never ends up in a room with LaShawn McCoy or Deshaun Jackson. Say it like that.
Oh, you're no doubt. Okay. Steven, since I know you don't have a lot left on your battery, I'll just hit you with these last 2 topics. They're not very big anyways. But let's just talk about Bill Belichick. You surprised that he drew 6.1 million viewers in his he's must see TV no matter what. The funny thing I'm seeing right now is the tiff that's still going on between Bill and the Patriots is absolutely hilarious. He is not so for people who don't know who's tuning into this, he is now not allowing them to come in and scout anyone from his team since Bill was not allowed to go to the facility. So we're playing tit for tat, and he's still acting like he's 16 years old. So good to see nothing's changed with Bill. All right, and last thing I will get you out of here on, Steven, before you let everyone know how they can reach you. The Pac-12 Conference does have a new TV agreement, CW Network. It'll begin next season. And one of the schools that's going into the Pac-12 is Colorado State, which you do have the Denver market. That's why I mentioned Colorado State, where you have the Denver market. And by the way, USF Florida game will be on the CW Network. Any thoughts about the Pac-12 at least finally getting a TV deal?
I love it. Regardless of where it's going to be, the more sports we can get on free television, the better it is for fans. You see this stuff all the time where we're fans that are in different markets. They have all these problems trying to watch games. You go to turn on the game. You're in a blacked out area. You can't watch this game. It's the biggest nonsense thing ever. So the more avenues we have to watch it on free TV, the better it is, and a better experience it is for the fans. Because as we were already talking about, they're pricing the everyday John and Janes out of being able to actually physically go to the games.
All right, Steven, let everybody know they get a hold of you.
Same as always, man. You just type in my name, is Steven Rochelle. It's easy to find me on Facebook, Instagram. It's Steve Sports Talk 1 for both X, YouTube, and TikTok if that's your thing as well. Other than that, make sure you guys are tuning in to tomorrow morning because we're gonna be talking some football, some baseball, some basketball, and everything in between with myself and Ben Troop.
Sounds good. All right. Send our regards to Ben. Tell him we miss him. Look forward to seeing him on next week. And tell him I held over a couple things from this show that we'll talk to him about next week because I know his opinions are worth holding over a topic or two. All right.
Oh, I'm sure he's already given his opinions on what's going on down there in Florida. So I'm sure he has no problem with telling you how he feels, my friend.
Yeah, that's okay. I need to get him on this show here.
We'll get him on, brother. We'll get him on.
I know, but I love Ben. And we missed the hat. So all right, we'll see you soon, Steven.
His hats are at least better than Cam Newton's. That's all I gotta say.
Oh, and I agree. I think we all agree with that. Okay. I can think of a lot of things I can say about Cam Newton. I'll wait for another night to do it. So all right, Steven, thanks for getting on here, and I'm glad you're
always, brother, always.
Through the duration.
We'll catch up. We'll see you guys soon. And everyone, make sure you guys are locked in. We're getting closer to 700K views, which means we're getting closer to that million views. And the first giveaway that we're doing, we got a bunch of stuff to hand out to our loyal commenters on the chat. Other than that, I'll see you guys tomorrow morning.
Yeah, our royal commenters, that makes sense, right, Steven?
Absolutely. Don't just sit there and say hi and then don't say nothing the rest of the show or cry about your comments not getting on the show. I'll catch you guys later.
All right, have a good night. All right, so let's go back to the rest of the group here, and we'll talk about the few topics here. All right, Mel, Pete Carroll, 4 times winning his debut, some thoughts.
Well, Pete knows how to coach. I think he had a little tread. I think he had tread left on his tire in Seattle, but I think they probably wanted a different voice. He still has the energy and the enthusiasm to go out there and coach, and he knows what it takes to win, or excuse me, to build a winning program because he's done it. And it's something the Raiders needed. They needed an adult in the room. They have one now, and we'll see how long this lasts. It's probably be Pete's last job, but we'll see what he's able to do with it. He's made that division very interesting by coming in there with Denver and with the Los Angeles Chargers, and obviously with Kansas City. So it's going to be very interesting to see. But yeah, I mean, it's great for him. He's doing it his way. He brought in his quarterback, and he's getting it done his way. That's the way he's done it before, and he knows how to win, and he's just continuing to do that.
Tommy.
It's interesting that Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick are both 73 years old. And Carroll got another chance with an NFL team, but Belichick couldn't. Which is why he's at North Carolina. No NFL team wanted him because of his reputation for trying to run everything and being hard to deal with.
Right.
So Pete Carroll, obviously, that's not who Pete Carroll is. He's obviously a good coach. But I'll forever think about him as getting out of Dodge, USC, before the NCAA.
You were cutting out at the very end, Tommy.
I say he's obviously a good coach, but I will always think of him from his USC days when he got out of town before the NCAA posse caught up with him with probation and penalties for the USC program.
There you go. Okay, Candy.
The win was Carroll's first NFL victory with a franchise other than the Seattle Seahawks since 1999 when he was with the Patriots. Carroll will turn 74 next week and is now the oldest head coach in NFL history. He's more than 7 years older than Kansas City Chief head coach Andy Reid. Let's face it, the Raiders started out, they weren't the best team in the league last year or so. Carroll's getting them off to the right start and moving them in the right direction. I mean, he's a good, proven coach, long tenured history. He doesn't have the short answers that Bill Belichick always had with the media, although Bill's got to have a little more media presence now that he's in North Carolina. He can't do the short, quick answers that he did when he was in the NFL.
Okay. All right, Mel, let's go back to the Pac-12, your old conference. You heard what I said to Steven, new TV deal, some thoughts.
Yeah, not much. I mean, the CW, I don't know how many people watch the CW. I mean, it's great for the remaining Pac-12. I wish they would have done something a long time ago, and the Pac-12 wouldn't have broke up. But I mean, I think I think they broke. I think it was inevitable. It was going to happen. I think the Big Ten wanted to be on the wanted to have a presence on the West Coast. I just wish that the Big Ten would have became a part of the Pac-12 as opposed to our teams becoming a part of the Big Ten. But it's good for the remaining teams that are going to be left in the Pac-12 now, whatever the conference is going to be. Obviously, it's good for players too. They get an opportunity to play on television. That's what all kids want to do. These are some schools that probably never had that type of visibility before, so it's going to be good for them. But I'm not a Pac-12 guy anymore. I'm a Big Ten guy. My team resides in the Big Ten. I don't care about the Pac-12.
That's fair enough. Okay, Tommy.
Yeah, it looks good on the surface, but I don't know if it's going to move the needle. When your membership is Colorado State, Fresno State, Texas State, Utah State, San Diego State, Boise, I don't know how much that's going to make a difference and attract eyeballs. They need a football program to capture the nation's attention, a lot like Boise State did in the Mountain West. Can they do that in the Pac-12? In basketball season, they do have Gonzaga to be that team to capture attention and eyeballs. The one good thing I will say about CW is it's a channel that's everywhere. It's not like having, some of the Big Ten games are on Peacock, and you have to have a subscription to watch them.
Right.
And so I see the Big Ten games because I'm interested. But if a Big 12 game was on Peacock, I couldn't watch it.
Fair enough. Candy?
You have to like it when a conference like that does go on to a station that is televised, like Tom and Mel said, everywhere. And Steven said it too. It's free television that people can go and watch. And how is some of these high schoolers going to see that now all of a sudden a conference that wasn't on TV is now on TV? They can watch them. They can be promoted more. It can only help the conference. I think it's a good move.
All I'll say about this is that, number one, I'm just glad the Pac-12 is still alive. Obviously not like it used to be, but you don't lose a conference that doesn't fold, and that's it. So if they could get on some sort of a television contract, fine. Certainly the members aren't like they used to be, but the fact it's still alive is for me. Final topic of the night. Coach Belichick, we talked about 6.1 million viewers. Candy, the guy still draws. And Tommy and I will be talking about their we'll talk a couple of college things on the Motor City Mad Mouse show tomorrow, but not this one. So Candy, thoughts about 6.1 million viewers watching the TCU game?
I mean, I think it was great. I mean, granted, it wasn't the game that we expected the results to turn out the way we thought they would, but it's good for college football, to have a name like that and to have a draw like that. It's good for football, for college football.
Tommy?
Bill Belichick, of course, is going to draw attention for a while. They've got to keep winning games. They play Richmond this week, so they should win a second game. Then they're going to have to go to Central Florida. I don't know how good Central Florida is, but we don't know what the talent level is on that team yet. We don't know how good the quarterback play is going to be. But I will say this, Steve mentioned this earlier about the spat with the Patriots. Belichick is still being a little petulant with his Patriots relationship, but he is a completely different person with his media interviews. He gives expansive answers. He explains the process to coaching the team. He explains the process they went through with Mike Lombardi of bringing in 70 transfers. They may not have made all the right choices, but he's been explaining what's going on. Another thing that's interesting, and this was after the loss against TCU, he was very expansive with his answers, very patient with the media, and And then the other thing that one of the things that popped up on social media at the was his girlfriend, his 24-year-old girlfriend, was captured on the sideline talking to him. And it was on Twitter, and it was made to sound like she was interrupting him during the game. It wasn't. It was in the pregame warm-ups, and this was long before the kickoff. And as has been explained, that's not unusual for a family member. She's not a family member. She's a girlfriend, but essentially his partner. It's not unusual for a wife seen on the field. Mac Brown, the former coach, used to walk off the field holding hands with his wife at the game. So a lot of stuff is unfair to Belichick. He brought it on himself. His girlfriend brought it on him too, with her CBS interview interjecting. But Belichick, I think, deserves credit for his demeanor and his patience with the media. Still comes off sounding boring because of his monotone. Interview and listen to it when you write a story like I've done. You can learn something from him. So I'm not ready to write him off. We'll see what the talent level is, but I'm not ready to write him off.
Yeah, we'll talk more about it tomorrow. All right, Mel, quick thoughts on Belichick. We're going to wrap it up.
Well, they played on Monday night, right? So those numbers are kind of skewed. There's the only football game on. Now you mix them in on a Saturday where all the other games are going on. You know, you're going to watch Ohio State and Texas, or you're going to watch North Carolina and TCU. People are probably going to watch Ohio State and Texas. So, I mean, you got to those numbers are kind of skewed a little bit. It was the only game in town. So, yeah, I mean, he's a big name. People wanted to see if he's going to crash and burn. A lot of people wanted to see if he was going to crash and burn. A lot of people wanted to see if he's going to be able to duplicate the success that he had in New England, or if he's going to do what what a lot of people think is going to happen, because he hasn't had much success without Tom Brady. So yeah, a lot of people tuned in for one of those two reasons, I would imagine. But again, those numbers are skewed because that was the only game on that particular day. Mix them in on a Saturday when with all a whole bunch of other teams are playing. North Carolina is not a team you probably. I mean, you might flick through the channels, just to check. You might have, get highlight or get updates on the score, but it's probably not a football game that you're going to watch.
Okay, Mel, very quickly, how can people get a hold of you?
Real quickly, you can get a hold of me all the social media at Melfar Jr., and you can follow what we have going on for the kids here in Georgia and also up in Michigan at melfarsuperstar.org.
A great tribute to Alfred Casa. We look forward to seeing you next Tuesday night. Tommy, quickly, of course, you and I have the Motor City Mad Mouth show beginning at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. Real quickly, how can they get a hold of you? And they'll see us again tomorrow night. You'll go into more details.
TomShanahan.report is my website with my stories and podcasts. Shanny4055 is my Twitter page. Buy my book. I mentioned Jimmy Ray earlier. There are no two better books on college football integration than mine, Ray of Light and The Right Thing to Do.
All right, Candy, quick station break, and then we are done. I appreciate everybody for being on. Stephen Rice show was great. Tommy and Mel, as usual, were great. Candy did a great job. Hopefully we'll have Marvin and Ben on next week. Go ahead, Candy.
South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you can get a plethora of content. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. If you want to advertise, call Scott 954-304-4941. And if you want to be a guest or you have topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune.com. I want to thank Scott for hosting, and I want to thank all the comments in the chat room. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys next week.